The emergency council chambers of the Galactic Federation buzzed with tension as representatives from 12 major species gathered around the crystalline table. Ambassador Zektar of the Vorthani Empire tapped his four-clawed hands nervously against the surface, creating a rhythm that echoed through the vast chamber. The news had spread like wildfire across the galaxy within hours. Humanity was leaving. "This cannot be real," hissed Commander Silas of the Reptilian Confederation, her serpentine tongue flicking out to taste the fear in the air. "The humans have been our allies for over 2 centuries. They cannot simply abandon the Federation." High Counselor Rex, a towering insectoid being whose compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights like 1,000 tiny stars, clicked his mandibles together in distress. "I have reviewed the transmission 17 times. The message is clear. Humanity is withdrawing all military support, ceasing all trade agreements, and recalling every human citizen from Federation space." The holographic display in the center of the table flickered to life, showing the stern face of Admiral Sarah Chun, the human representative who had delivered the devastating news just hours earlier. Her words replayed for the 10th time that day. "The human species has made the difficult decision to withdraw from the Galactic Federation, effective immediately. We thank you for the partnership, but recent events have made it clear that our philosophies and methods are no longer compatible. We wish you well in your future endeavors." The message cut off abruptly, leaving the alien representatives in stunned silence. What the recording didn't show was the chaos that had erupted immediately after Admiral Chen's announcement. Within minutes, human ships across the galaxy had begun their coordinated departure. Military vessels protecting Federation borders simply vanished into hyperspace. Human-operated mining stations went dark. Trading posts run by human corporations broadcast automated messages about immediate closure. "What recent events?" demanded General Crix of the Molten Core Worlds, his rocky exterior glowing brighter with anger. What could have possibly driven them to this extreme action? Ambassador Zektar shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The Vorthani had been present during the incident 3 weeks ago, and he had seen the look in Admiral Chen's eyes when she learned what had happened. "The Kepler-7 situation," he said quietly. A collective shudder ran through the chamber. Everyone knew about Kepler-7, though most had tried to forget it. The Federation had voted to abandon the human colony world when the Zeraxian invasion fleet approached. The evacuation ships could only carry half the population, and the Federation Council had ruled that military intervention was too costly for a single colony. The humans had begged for help. They had offered to pay any price, to provide any service, to give up anything in exchange for Federation protection. But the vote was final. Kepler-7 was expendable. What happened next was something that would haunt the galaxy forever. Rather than flee, the remaining humans on Kepler-7 had chosen to fight. Every man, woman, and child picked up whatever weapons they could find and faced the Zeraxian war machine head-on. For 3 days, they held the line against impossible odds. When Federation scouts finally returned to assess the aftermath, they found something that defied explanation. The human colony was still standing. The Zeraxian invasion fleet was gone, reduced to debris floating in the void. Somehow, impossibly, a handful of human civilians had destroyed one of the most feared military forces in the galaxy. "They didn't just win," whispered Counselor Vera of the Aquatic Confederation, her gills fluttering with anxiety. "They annihilated the Zeraxians so completely that we still don't understand how they did it." The truth was that nobody in the Federation really understood humans at all. For 200 years, they had been reliable allies, contributing their advanced technology and strategic thinking to countless conflicts. They had helped broker peace treaties, defended weak species from aggression, and shared their knowledge freely with all Federation members. But they had also been holding back. "Pull up the combat analysis from Kepler-7, ordered High Counselor Rex. The holographic display shifted, showing tactical readouts and energy signatures from the battle. "Our best scientists have studied this data for weeks. The weapon's signatures don't match anything in human technology databases. Because they were lying to us," said General Crix flatly. For 2 centuries, they showed us farming equipment and manufacturing techniques while hiding their true military capabilities. The implications hung heavy in the air. If humans had been concealing their real strength all this time, what else might they be capable of? And now, with humanity withdrawing from galactic society, that power was no longer bound by Federation laws and treaties. Ambassador Zektar accessed his personal communication device, trying once again to reach his human contacts. Like every other attempt since the announcement, the messages bounced back with automated responses. Humanity had closed its borders completely. Perhaps, he said slowly, we should consider why they kept their true strength hidden from us. Maybe they weren't planning for conquest. Maybe they were planning for defense. Defense against what? Nobody dared to ask. But as reports continued to flow in from across the galaxy, painting a picture of humanity's swift and total withdrawal from galactic affairs, one thing became terrifyingly clear. The humans knew something that the rest of the galaxy didn't. 3 months had passed since humanity's departure, and the galaxy was learning what it meant to function without them. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for decades now faced constant pirate attacks without human patrol ships to deter them. The notorious Crimson Fleet, which had been nearly extinct thanks to joint Human Federation operations, now raided merchant vessels with impunity across 7-star systems. Dr. Nailesh Vray, the Federation's chief xenobiologist, stood before a massive wall display in her laboratory aboard Research Station Omega. The screen showed a star map of the galaxy, with thousands of red dots marking locations where human infrastructure had simply vanished. Not destroyed, not abandoned gradually, but gone as if it had never existed. "Show me the Titan shipyards," she commanded. The display zoomed on what should have been a massive orbital construction facility capable of building Dreadnought-class vessels. Instead, there was nothing but empty space and a few scattered asteroids. Her assistant, a young crystalline named Hexus, chimed with confusion. "The environmental readings don't make sense, Doctor. There's no debris field, no residual energy signatures, no trace elements that would indicate a structure was ever there." "That's because they didn't destroy it," Dr. Vray said grimly. "They took it with them. The entire shipyard, complete with the partially constructed vessels inside. This was happening everywhere humans had established major installations. The legendary Sol Ring defense platform around Earth's sun had vanished, leaving only gravitational anomalies where its massive structure once orbited. The hyperspace relay network that had connected human space to the greater galaxy had been dismantled so thoroughly that even the quantum foundations showed no signs of ever existing. "Dr. Hexus chimed again. We're receiving a priority transmission from the border monitoring station at Rigel Outpost." The communication channel opened to reveal Captain Thurek, a veteran Andromedan whose usually steady demeanor was cracked with worry. "Dr. Vray, we need xenobiological expertise immediately. Something's happening at the edge of human space." "What kind of something?" she asked, already moving toward her shuttle. "See for yourself." Captain Thurek transmitted a data packet. The information that flooded Dr. Vray's screens made her blood run cold. Long-range sensors were detecting massive energy signatures just beyond the boundary of what had once been human territory. The patterns were unlike anything in Federation databases, but they carried an unmistakable signature of intentional construction. "How many ships are we talking about?" Dr. Vray asked as she boarded her transport. "That's just it, Doctor. We don't think they're ships." The journey to Rigel Outpost took 2 days, and with each passing hour, the sensor readings became more disturbing. By the time Dr. Vray arrived, the monitoring station was in full alert status. The main observation deck provided a clear view of the phenomenon through reinforced transparent aluminum windows. What they saw defied comprehension. Stretching across the void where human space began, a wall of structures blocked the view of the stars beyond. Each structure was the size of a small moon, and they were arranged in perfect geometric formations that extended in all directions. The wall appeared to be thousands of light years long and growing. "When did this construction begin?" Dr. Vray asked, her scientific mind struggling to process the implications. According to our best estimates, the energy signatures first appeared exactly 72 hours after humanity's withdrawal announcement, Captain Thurrock replied. But, Doctor, the scale of this construction would require resources and labor that should take centuries to complete. Dr. Vray studied the readings more carefully. Each structure was emitting a low-level energy field that created interference with their sensors, making detailed scans impossible. But what they could detect suggested technology far beyond anything the Federation had ever encountered. Captain, I need to speak with Admiral Keth immediately. Admiral Keth materialized as a hologram within minutes, her ethereal Voidwalker form flickering slightly due to the distance. Doctor, I trust you have an explanation for what our sensors are detecting. I'm afraid I have more questions than answers, Admiral. But based on the energy patterns and construction rate, I believe we're looking at automated construction on a scale that suggests preparation. Preparation for what? I think humanity has been building this for a very long time. The precision of the timing, the coordination required, the resources needed, this isn't something they could have accomplished in 3 months. This has been planned for years, possibly decades. The implications hung in the space between them. If humans had been secretly constructing this massive barrier while simultaneously participating in Federation activities, it suggested a level of deception and preparation that bordered on the terrifying. Admiral, Dr. Vray continued, I recommend we attempt direct communication. Whatever they're building, they're making no effort to hide it from us. The communication attempt was made 3 hours later. Admiral Keth personally transmitted on all frequencies toward the construction zone, requesting dialogue with any human authority. The response came almost immediately, but not from where they expected. A new signal appeared on their sensors, approaching from deeper within human space. As it grew closer, they could see it was a single vessel, sleek and angular in design, completely unlike any human ship in their databases. When it reached the border of the construction zone, it simply stopped and waited. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez of the Human Exploration Corps, came a calm voice over the communication channel. You are observing the construction of Project Bastion. We appreciate the Federation's interest, but this is an internal human matter. Dr. Vasquez, Admiral Keth responded. The scale of this construction affects galactic navigation and trade routes. The Federation has a right to understand what you're building. There was a long pause before the human responded. Admiral, may I ask how the Federation has fared in the 3 months since our departure? The question struck deeper than intended. Piracy was up 300%. Several minor conflicts that human diplomats had kept in check were escalating toward open warfare. 2 Federation member species were threatening to withdraw over unresolved territorial disputes that human mediators had managed for decades. That's not relevant to our current discussion, Admiral Keth said stiffly. Isn't it? Dr. Vasquez asked. Admiral, in approximately 18 months, you're going to understand exactly why we built Project Bastion. When that time comes, you'll be grateful we did. The transmission cut off, and the human vessel disappeared back into their territory as quickly as it had arrived. Dr. Vray stared at the massive construction continuing in the distance. 18 months, she whispered. What happens in 18 months? 14 months after humanity's departure. The answer to Dr. Vray's question arrived in the most terrifying way possible. The first warning came from the Outer Rim monitoring stations, automated posts positioned at the very edge of the galaxy to watch for anything approaching from the dark void between star systems. Station Perimeter 7 went silent on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, 5 more stations had stopped transmitting. By the weekend, the entire outer monitoring network was dark, creating a blind spot that stretched across 30,000 light-years of the galactic edge. High Admiral Corex of the Federation Defense Fleet stood in the war room aboard the flagship Infinite Justice, studying the tactical display with growing dread. Red zones now mark the locations of 17 destroyed monitoring stations, and the pattern of their destruction told a story that made his blood run cold. The attacks are coordinated, reported Intelligence Officer Zura, her cybernetic implants gleaming as she processed vast amounts of data. Each station was destroyed within a 6-hour window, despite being separated by distances that should require weeks of travel. Multiple enemy fleets, Admiral Corex concluded grimly, operating simultaneously across the entire perimeter. What do we know about the attackers? Nothing, Zara admitted. The stations were destroyed so quickly that they didn't have time to transmit detailed sensor data. All we have are brief energy signatures indicating massive weapons discharge. The holographic display updated as another red zone appeared. Station Perimeter 23 had just gone silent. "Sir," called Communications Officer Thex from his position at the far end of the room, "we're receiving a transmission from the research vessel Deep Explorer. They were conducting long-range surveys near the destroyed stations." "Put them through." Dr. Mylash appeared as a shimmering hologram, his usually pristine scientific uniform torn and burned. Behind him, emergency lights cast an eerie glow over what appeared to be a damaged ship's bridge. "Admiral, thank the stars we reached you," Dr. Mylash gasped. "We've seen them, the things that destroyed the monitoring stations." "Report," Admiral Corex ordered. "They're not ships, sir. Not in any way we understand the term. They're massive, organic-looking structures that move through space like living creatures. Each one is the size of a battle cruiser, but they move in coordinated swarms of thousands." The tactical display flickered as Dr. Mylash transmitted his sensor data. The images that appeared defied everything the Federation knew about spacefaring technology. The entities were indeed organic in appearance, with flowing, tentacle-like appendages and surfaces that seemed to pulse with bioluminescent patterns. But their energy signatures indicated technology more advanced than anything in Federation databases. "How fast are they moving?" asked Admiral Corex. "That's the problem, sir. They don't appear to be using conventional propulsion. They're moving through space at near-light speed without generating any detectable drive signatures. It's as if they're swimming through the void itself." Admiral Corex felt a chill run down his spine. Enemies that could move faster than Federation ships, while maintaining coordinated formation attacks across impossible distances, spelled doom for any conventional defense. "Dr. Mylash, can you maintain observation without being detected?" "We're trying, sir, but they seem to be aware of our presence. 3 of the entities have broken off from the main swarm and are heading directly for our position." The transmission suddenly filled with alarm sirens. Through the static, they could hear Dr. Mylash shouting orders to his crew. "Evasive maneuvers. Maximum power to shields." The hologram flickered and died. "Deep Explorer, please respond." Communications Officer Thex called repeatedly, but only silence answered. Admiral Corex stared at the tactical display, where another friendly icon had just changed to red. How long until they reach inhabited systems? Intelligence Officer Zara's calculations appeared on the main screen. At their current rate of advancement, they'll reach the first Federation colonies in 72 hours. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Federation had 48 hours to mobilize a defense against an enemy they didn't understand, using tactics they had never encountered, with technology that defied their comprehension. "Sir," Communications Officer Thex spoke up hesitantly, "should we attempt to contact the humans?" The suggestion hung in the air like a desperate prayer. Admiral Corex knew that the humans had withdrawn completely from galactic affairs, but faced with extinction, pride seemed less important than survival. "Open a channel to human space," he ordered. The communication went out on all frequencies, transmitted with the highest priority encryption codes. "This is High Admiral Corex of the Federation Defense Fleet. We are facing an existential threat to all life in the galaxy. We request immediate assistance from any human authority." The response came faster than anyone expected, but not from where they anticipated. A new contact appeared on their sensors, approaching from the direction of human space. The ship's configuration was unlike anything in their databases, sleek and angular with energy signatures that made their most advanced dreadnoughts look like primitive shuttles. "Federation fleet, This is Admiral Chun of the Human Defense Force, came a familiar voice over the communication channel. We are monitoring the situation at the galactic perimeter. Admiral Chun. Admiral Korex replied with barely concealed relief. The entities have already destroyed our outer defenses. Can you provide assistance? Negative, Admiral. Human forces are not authorized to enter Federation space under current treaties. The response hit the war room like a physical blow. Admiral Chun, this isn't about treaties anymore. This is about survival. I understand your position, Admiral. However, the entities you're facing are called the Devourers. They consume all biological matter they encounter and convert it into more of their kind. This particular swarm contains approximately 4 million individual units. 4 million. The number was so vast that Admiral Korex couldn't process it. The entire Federation fleet contained fewer than 50,000 vessels. Admiral Chun, he said desperately, surely humanity won't stand by and watch the galaxy be consumed. Humanity will survive, Admiral. We've been preparing for this invasion for over 3 decades. Project Bastion was designed specifically to contain the Devourer threat. The meaning of her words slowly penetrated the shock. You knew this was coming. We discovered evidence of the Devourers during deep space exploration 28 years ago. We tried to warn the Federation Council, but our reports were dismissed as fear-mongering. We were told to focus on more immediate concerns. Admiral Korex remembered that session. The human delegation had presented data about potential extragalactic threats, but the Council had been dealing with 3 territorial disputes and a trade war. The human warnings had been filed away and forgotten. The good news, Admiral Chun continued, is that the Federation still has options. What options? Admiral Korex asked desperately. You can request admission to the Human Protectorate Zone. Any Federation citizens who reach human space within the next 60 hours will be granted refugee status and protection behind our defensive barriers. And our worlds? Our civilizations. Those that cannot be evacuated will be lost, Admiral Chun said with clinical precision. The choice is yours, Admiral. But I suggest you make it quickly. As if summoned by her words, new contacts appeared on the tactical display. The Devourer swarm had entered the outer systems of the galaxy, and they were accelerating toward the core worlds where billions of Federation citizens lived in blissful ignorance of their approaching doom. The evacuation of 12 major Federation worlds in 60 hours was impossible by any reasonable measure. Yet across the galaxy, impossible things began happening as species faced with extinction discovered reserves of determination they never knew existed. Ambassador Zektar stood on the bridge of the evacuation transport New Dawn, watching through the viewport as endless streams of ships fled toward human space. Every vessel that could carry passengers had been pressed into service. Cargo haulers, mining ships, luxury yachts, even modified fighter craft. The sight was both inspiring and heartbreaking. Ambassador called Captain Yoris from a navigation station. We're receiving updated routing from Human Traffic Control. The human coordination of the evacuation had been flawless from the moment Admiral Chun announced the refugee protocol. Within 6 hours, detailed evacuation plans had appeared on every Federation communication network. The plans included optimal flight paths, fuel depot locations, and cargo manifests that maximize passenger capacity for each ship type. They've been planning this evacuation for years, Zektar realized aloud. Sir, Captain Yoris asked, look at these flight plans. They account for fuel consumption rates for every ship class in Federation service. They include backup routes around stellar phenomena that wouldn't affect evacuation timing unless you'd calculated them decades in advance. The humans have been preparing to save us, even while we ignored their warnings. The communication board chimed with an incoming transmission. New Dawn, this is Evacuation Coordinator Patel. You are cleared for approach to Checkpoint 7. Please maintain current heading and prepare for passenger transfer. Through the viewport, Checkpoint 7 resolved into view. The installation was clearly of human construction, a massive space station that hadn't existed a week ago. It bristled with docking ports and cargo handling equipment, all designed to process the thousands of refugee ships flowing through human space. "Impossible," whispered Captain Yuris. "That station is the size of a small moon. How they build it so quickly?" "They didn't build it quickly," Zektar said grimly. "They built it in secret years ago and kept it hidden until we needed it." As New Dawn approached the docking bay, Zektar could see human personnel working alongside massive automated systems to process the refugee fleet. Every operation was coordinated with precision that bordered on the supernatural. Ships were refueled, passengers were fed and provided medical care, and detailed manifests were maintained to ensure no one was lost in the chaos. "All passengers prepare for temporary disembarkation," announced the human coordinator. "Processing time will be approximately 2 hours per vessel. Hot meals and medical facilities are available in sections A through M." Ambassador Zektar disembarked with his fellow refugees, marveling at the efficiency of the operation. The station's corridors were wide enough to accommodate every known species, with atmospheric controls that automatically adjusted to each individual's biological needs. Translation systems provided clear communication in over 300 languages and subspecies dialects. At the processing center, he met Dr. James Morrison, a human xenobiologist who was documenting each refugee group. "Dr. Morrison," Zektar said, "may I ask how long humanity has been preparing for this evacuation?" "Officially or unofficially?" Dr. Morrison replied with a tired smile. "Both. Officially, the evacuation protocols were finalized 8 years ago when it became clear the Federation wouldn't take proactive measures against the Devourer threat. Unofficially, we've been building refugee infrastructure since we first discovered the Devourers 30 years ago. You've spent 3 decades preparing to save people who dismissed your warnings. Ambassador, humanity learned a long time ago that the right thing to do isn't always the popular thing to do. When we realized the Devourers were coming, we faced a choice. We could prepare to save ourselves, or we could prepare to save everyone. We chose everyone." The conversation was interrupted by alarms echoing through the station. Emergency displays activated throughout the corridor, showing tactical information from the galaxy's edge. "What's happening?" Zektar asked. Dr. Morrison consulted a handheld device. "The Federation Defense Fleet is engaging the Devourer Vanguard at the Helios system." The tactical display showed the Federation's last major fleet action in horrifying detail. Admiral Corex had assembled every available warship in a desperate attempt to buy time for the evacuation. 3,000 Federation vessels faced off against a Devourer force that filled the sensor screens with hostile contacts. The battle lasted 18 minutes. Federation ships opened fire with every weapon in their arsenal: plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, antimatter warheads. The weapons struck the Devourer entities with devastating force, but the organic-looking creatures absorbed the energy and converted it into rapid healing and reproduction. Where Federation weapons destroyed one Devourer, 2 more split off from the remains. Energy weapons seemed to feed the entities rather than harm them. Even nuclear detonations only resulted in accelerated Devourer multiplication. "Dear gods," Zektar whispered as he watched the tactical display. "They're not just destroying the fleet. They're converting it." The destroyed Federation ships were being consumed by the Devourers, their crews, and materials transformed into more hostile entities. What had begun as an 18-minute battle was becoming an exponential multiplication event. "Dr. Morrison, how does humanity plan to fight something that grows stronger from every attack?" "We don't plan to fight them, Ambassador. We plan to contain them." The viewports along the station corridor suddenly blazed with light as massive objects moved past outside. Zektar pressed his face against the transparent aluminum and gasped at what he saw. Human war machines, unlike anything he had ever imagined, were moving through space in perfect formation. Each vessel was the size of a moon, with surfaces that seemed to ripple and shift like living metal. They moved without visible propulsion systems, gliding through the void with impossible grace. "Behold the Guardians," Dr. Morrison said softly. "Humanity's answer to the Devourer threat. How many are there?" 7,000 active units, with production facilities capable of building more as needed. 7,000 moon-sized warships. The scale was so vast that Zektar's mind struggled to process it. How did you build so many without anyone noticing? We built them in the spaces between spaces, Ambassador, in pocket dimensions that intersect with our reality only when we choose to open them. Humanity has been busy while the rest of the galaxy focused on trade disputes and territorial squabbles. The tactical display updated as the Guardian fleet reached the galactic perimeter. What happened next defied every known principle of space combat. Instead of engaging the Devourers directly, the Guardian ships began weaving patterns through space that created geometric forms of impossible complexity. They're not attacking, Zektar observed. No, Dr. Morrison agreed. They're building a cage. The Guardians moved with synchronized precision, their formations creating a three-dimensional net of energy that began to surround the Devourer swarm. Unlike the Federation's kinetic and energy weapons, this wasn't an attack. It was containment on a scale that dwarfed anything in galactic history. The Devourers feed on matter and energy, Dr. Morrison explained. But they cannot process pure information. The Guardian Network is creating an informational barrier that the Devourers perceive as impenetrable solid matter. You're trapping them in an illusion? We're trapping them in a reality where they cannot exist. The containment field will hold them until we can determine a permanent solution. The tactical display showed the Devourer swarm slowing, then stopping completely as the Guardian Network completed its formation. Vermilion entities that had been consuming everything in their path were suddenly motionless, trapped within boundaries they could not perceive or understand. Ambassador, Dr. Morrison said quietly, "Would you like to send a message to the Federation Council? I believe they might be interested in discussing renewed diplomatic relations." 6 months after the Guardian containment event, as historians were already calling it, the galaxy looked vastly different than it had before humanity's departure. The emergency session of the Galactic Federation was held aboard the human space station Unity, a massive diplomatic facility that had materialized in neutral space as if it had always existed. Ambassador Zektar walked through the station's corridors toward the main assembly hall, marveling at the subtle changes in how different species interacted with each other. The near-extinction event had stripped away many of the petty conflicts and prejudices that had defined galactic politics for centuries. When faced with complete annihilation, arguments about trade routes and mining rights seemed remarkably trivial. The assembly hall was a marvel of engineering that perfectly accommodated every known species' environmental and social needs. Aquatic beings floated in specialized atmospheric bubbles, while silicon-based life forms rested on heated crystalline platforms. The air itself was segmented into zones with different atmospheric compositions, all seamlessly maintained by technology that seemed almost magical. High Counselor Rex stood at the central podium, his compound eyes reflecting the lights from thousands of delegation seats. The emergency session of the Galactic Federation will come to order. We are here to address humanity's formal request to rejoin the Federation under revised terms. A murmur of anticipation rippled through the assembly. Every major species in the galaxy had sent their highest-ranking diplomats to this session. The stakes could not be higher. Before we begin formal proceedings, High Counselor Rex continued, Admiral Chun of the Human Defense Force has requested to address the assembly. Admiral Sarah Chun approached the podium with the same calm confidence she had displayed during humanity's withdrawal announcement 18 months earlier. But now, instead of delivering an ultimatum, she carried herself with the bearing of someone offering a gift. Honored representatives, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall's advanced acoustic system. 18 months ago, humanity made the difficult decision to withdraw from the Federation. Today, we stand before you not as returning supplicants, but as partners offering a new vision for galactic civilization. The holographic display behind her activated, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. But this wasn't the galaxy as it had existed before the Devourer crisis. This was something new. The Guardian Network is now fully operational, Admiral Chen announced. 7,000 Guardian vessels maintain continuous patrol along the galactic perimeter, ensuring that no external threats can penetrate our borders. But the Guardian network is more than just a defensive system. The display zoomed in to show individual star systems. Where before there had been isolated worlds struggling with limited resources, now there were efficient transportation networks connecting every inhabited planet. Massive automated factories orbited dead worlds, converting raw materials into whatever finished goods were needed throughout the galaxy. The Guardian production facilities can manufacture anything required by any Federation species, Admiral Chen explained. Hunger, poverty, and resource scarcity are no longer necessary evils to be managed. They are problems that can be solved. Representative Kala of the Mining Consortium stood to speak. Admiral Chen, what you're describing would eliminate the economic foundations that our civilizations have been built upon. If everyone has access to unlimited resources, what happens to trade? To commerce? To the competitive dynamics that drive innovation? An excellent question, Representative. The answer is that your civilizations will be free to focus on achievement rather than survival. When no one worries about their next meal or their children's safety, they can dedicate their talents to art, science, exploration, and the advancement of their species' potential. The implications were staggering. Admiral Chen was describing the end of scarcity economics across the entire galaxy. No more wars over mineral rights. No more species trapped in poverty while others prospered. No more children dying from preventable diseases while medical technology existed elsewhere. Ambassador Zektar stood to address the assembly. Admiral Chen, the generosity of humanity's offer is beyond question. But many of us are wondering why you're willing to share this technology now, when you've clearly possessed it for decades. Admiral Chen smiled, and for the first time since the crisis began, it was a warm, genuine expression. Ambassador, may I ask you a question in return? Why did the Vorthani Empire spend 3 months organizing refugee ships during the Devourer crisis, instead of simply fleeing to safety with your own people? The question struck home. Because it was the right thing to do. Exactly. Humanity has always possessed the technology to solve galactic scarcity and conflict, but simply imposing our solutions would have made us conquerors, not partners. The crisis forced every species in the galaxy to face a fundamental choice. Do we work together for mutual survival, or do we abandon each other to save ourselves? The assembly hall fell silent as the weight of her words settled in. Every species represented had chosen cooperation over abandonment during the crisis. They had proven themselves worthy of the partnership humanity was offering. However, Admiral Chen continued, humanity's return to the Federation comes with non-negotiable conditions. High Councilor Rex leaned forward. Please elaborate. First, the Federation will adopt the Unified Ethics Accord, establishing inviolable rights for all sentient beings regardless of species, origin, or technological development. Second, the Federation will commit to mandatory resource sharing, ensuring that no member species faces scarcity while others possess abundance. Third, the Federation will establish the Joint Exploration Initiative, dedicating significant resources to peaceful scientific discovery beyond our galactic borders. The conditions were revolutionary. They would transform the Federation from a loose alliance of competing powers into a true unified government dedicated to the welfare of all sentient life. And if the Federation declines these conditions, asked General Crix, then humanity will maintain the Guardian Network and continue offering refuge to any species that requests it, but we will not rejoin the Federation. We will not compromise on the principles that define who we are as a species. Ambassador Zektar found himself thinking about the last 18 months. Humanity could have hidden behind their defensive barriers and let the rest of the galaxy face extinction. Instead, they had risked everything to save species that had dismissed their warnings and marginalized their concerns. I call for an immediate vote, he announced, standing from his delegation seat. The Vorthani Empire votes to accept humanity's conditions and welcome them back to the Federation. The mining consortium votes in favor, declared Representative Kala. The Aquatic Confederation accepts, sang Councillor Vera. One by one, every species represented voted to accept humanity's terms. The final tally was unanimous, 47 species voting in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. High Councillor Rex stood and extended his 4 arms in the traditional gesture of welcome. By unanimous consent, the Galactic Federation officially invites humanity to rejoin our alliance under the proposed terms. Admiral Chun, will humanity accept? Admiral Chun smiled again, and this time her expression carried the weight of 3 decades of preparation, 18 months of separation, and the hope of countless generations yet to come. Humanity accepts. Let's build something better together. As the assembly erupted in celebration, Ambassador Zektar reflected on the profound change that had occurred. Humanity had left the galaxy to prepare for war, but they had returned to offer something far more valuable, the tools and wisdom needed to build a lasting peace. The galaxy would never be the same, and for the first time in his long diplomatic career, Zektar was certain that change would be for the better. Humanity had shown them all that true strength lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to protect and nurture all life. The future stretched ahead, bright with possibilities that none of them had dared imagine just 18 months before. Together, they would explore new frontiers, solve ancient problems, and perhaps discover that the greatest victory of all was learning to live in harmony among the stars.